Hello and welcome to the Quest Advancing Live Action Role-Playing, episode number 0. What is LARPing? The Quest is a proud member of the Dancing Giraffe Productions Network. You can find us at dancinggiraffe.net and is brought to you by Geek Fan Expo, uniting geeks September 5th through 7th, 2014 at the Doubletree Dearborn Hotel in Detroit. You can learn more about GFX at geekfanexpo.com. I'm your host, Jeff Harvey, and I am joined today by Donna Williams and Dave Angel. This show is intended for all audiences, but sometimes we may get a little overly excited, and our content may not be appropriate for some listeners. Listener caution is advised. Hello and hi.
Hello.
Hello.
So hopefully that intro didn't suck. So being our first redo of a podcast.
First one was an epic fail.
It was an epic fail. So this is a redo, which is why it's still episode 0. Hopefully we can actually make this one work. But we're going to talk today a little bit about what live action role playing is to us and really to the community as a whole. The definition of LARPing is varied and many, but really I think it comes down to just being a fancy way to say playing pretend and having fun in the woods.
It's like a tabletop outside where you can hit people.
Well, there are various types of LARP. Obviously, we can talk about things like storytelling LARP, which is like things like the Mind's Eye Theater by White Wolf, Boffer LARPs like Canar, Dago Here, Shadow Realms, Knight's Realm. Sorry. There are also battle LARPs, which are mostly prevalent in Europe. There's a couple of events that happen in Germany that have about 5,000 people twice a year, which would be fantastic to witness.
I'd like to go to one of those.
Yeah.
Really bad. I think Dago Here would be more of a battle LARP because they don't actually role play. They just formulate battles and then have them.
That's true. It's a little bit more like what they showed in role models.
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas, obviously, my preference is Boffer LARPing. Excuse me. I like to be able to experience the character that you're role playing. It's to me, it's a lot more like theater than really anything. It's other than theater itself,
Right.
which I've done. I have done some theater, but LARPing is an escape. It's a great way to get out into the woods and camp, have fun with friends, sing songs, which is the only place I sing songs, and really just act like an idiot about 80% of the time you're there. So
It's like reading a book or watching a movie, but you get to be there for real.
Right, it's like being a part of an epic story. You can interact with one another and be someone completely different, do things the way you think they would do them. It's really interesting to put yourself in someone else's shoes, someone that you created, and actually live a life through them.
Living the story is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
That's my favorite part of it. You've got some people who like to fight. They do things like Dago Here or whatnot, the battle LARPs and whatnot.
Or even Canar. People come to Canar
Yeah,
and other LARPs
just
like
for
that
fighting.
just to fight the Boffer LARPs.
And while I love this, like I'm all about the story, but storytelling LARPs like Mind's Eye Theater and whatnot, there's processing issues. When you're trying to adjudicate the rulings and stuff like that, fighting or I do this to you, whatnot, you have to stop and rock, paper, scissors for it. Having the boffer in your hand, whatnot, it's like having the weapon in your hand, and everything flows smoothly, and it comes off a lot more realistic. Gets you into the situation a lot.
right, it's a lot more immersive and a lot less breaking to pull out a sword and actually hit somebody with it than to stop and do a paper rock scissors.
Yeah.
Right, during the week-long event that we just had recently, it was almost at points like the Canar was the real world and that LARP was the real world. And then when you stepped off, you're like, oh, wow, I forgot I'm not actually that person. And these issues don't actually matter. And this is all just a story. And that's always really amazing.
Which does leads to sometimes a problem that you get in LARPing, which is some people have a really hard time separating reality from the game. And that can lead to a lot of
Mazes and
issues.
Monsters.
Yeah, Mazes and Monsters. Yeah, fun movie.
Fun movie.
Tom Hanks. I think it's his first movie, wasn't it?
I believe so.
Yeah. So one of the things that we can talk about is what's a good way that you guys keep separate what happens in game to what is reality.
I can't really say that I've ever had an issue separating, because it's a whole different world. People will do things in a game setting or make their character do something that they would never actually do themselves. You know, the choices that you make there are in a whole different world, a whole different setting. So when you're stepping out into, you know, off field or off of game time, you look at this person who's, you know, in their regular life, you know, a hard worker, you know, have kids, all of this stuff. They're completely different. I mean, even if, you know, their personalities or characters kind of meld together, because a lot of times they do, it's still a whole different situation, a whole different world once you step off.
Well, it's like writing a book. You're all joining together to write the story. You're all joining together to develop your characters, and there are going to be times where, you know, you want to find George Martin and punch him in the head because he killed 3 of your favorite characters. But as long as you keep in mind that this is a part of a story that you're helping to write, a part of the story that you're helping to develop, and a part of the story that they're helping to write and develop, once you step off, you look back and go, that was a really cool story.
Yeah, well.
I think the biggest difficulty with separating in-game and out-of-game is when you have people who stop looking at it like you're telling a story.
No, I mean, you're right in that you can't live vicariously through your character, although in a way you are going to live vicariously through them no matter what. I do, to an extent, live vicariously through Jonas, although I come back to the real world, it's fine, because I like my life outside of the game, which is very important. If you're not in a stable place in your life, if you're not comfortable, if you have a hard time with it, you need to take a step back and prioritize your life, your real life, over any game, which a lot of people have a hard time doing.
The community is really good to have. In a LARPing situation, you have a great community. It's a bunch of people playing the same games. You all have the same interest. It's really fun and really exciting, and develops a really big bond. When I first started off, I was shy. I was a quiet person that would meet people. I was everybody's best friend in high school, but it was through meeting people individually. It was very difficult to walk up to somebody who I had no knowledge about what their interests were, whatnot, and strike up a conversation. And then I went out to Canar, which was the LARP that I started playing in, and you have a mass group of people who all have a similar interest. So it was really quick to meet people and develop that, and help develop the social skills and break out of that bubble. So it was helpful. It was good. It was nice.
When I started LARPing, actually I started Renaissance festivals first, and I started selling things at Renaissance festivals, and I started meeting people, and I started talking to everybody, and then I got into LARPing, and from there I had absolutely no problem meeting people. I mean, I've grown so much because of LARPing. It is. I took the aspects of Jonas that I really enjoyed, that we're not murdering people and we're making money, because that's illegal in the real world.
Right.
Although it's a job I've always kind of wanted. Anyway. You take the aspects of the personality, the outgoingness, the boldness, the sureness. You can learn from those things that you've done and how you handle them, and understand that it's really no different than doing something in the real world.
For me, it was completely different. When I was in high school, I was pretty popular and I had no issues. I mean, through all of school, I knew everyone and could talk to everyone easily. And going into the LARPing situation, it was all these people that, I used to sit during lunch and play Magic, but it's a different world. It's a different social setting. So I had to take a little while to figure out exactly how people functioned in this place and how things worked. So it took me a little while to get on the path to, it's okay to talk to everybody again. Now I'm there again, because I'm a social butterfly.
Right. For me, LARPing has been a big part of my trek into geekdom. Not my primary, I don't think. Role-playing has always been my primary, but tabletopping was my original. And in a lot of ways, I still think tabletopping is better than LARPing, but LARPing has a lot of advantages that tabletopping doesn't have. In a tabletop, you can get a small group of people and you can tell a really epic, truly epic story. You can make each character really feel the story. Whereas in LARPing, you can get that on a small scale sometimes, but you can rarely ever get 200 people to feel that way and to even agree that the story's any good. And you're limited too by the scope of the imagination. There's a lot of people who don't have the imagination in LARPing to do things like fighting dragons and fighting giant, whatever, undead ettins. But two, you don't, in tabletopping, you're limited to the 3 or 4 people around the table as far as telling story. And one of the nice things about LARPing and one of the things that has helped people like me come out of shells and I mean, I wasn't really unpopular in high school. I just didn't realize how popular I was until I was out of high school. I was very much I don't care about you kind of person. I've been described as abrasive on occasion.
Oh,
No,
why would someone
really?
say that about you? That's so not nice. They're so rude.
I don't understand, but
Be gentler about it.
Yeah, I have no idea where I'm going with this. Really, having the ability to sit down across the field from 100 other people allows you to experience stories that you never would have thought of before. It's like being exposed to new books. I would never have read the George R. Martin books unless the show had come out. I mean, I'd heard of it, but I had not really cared. We heard about the show coming out. Some friends of mine started talking about it, and I'm like, okay, I'll read those books. And so I read them just before season 1 came out, and I'm absolutely glad I did. But by the same token, my girlfriend has never read the Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman Dragonlance books.
Dragons.
If you're never exposed to new things, then you're never going to be able to grow. And LARPing really gives you a chance to be exposed to hundreds of other people's ideas and stories and thought processes, and you have to react to them in a relatively safe environment. Whereas if you were doing the same thing out in the real world, you can't be as quick to react to certain things because you're afraid of the consequences.
Both of them have their benefits and their drawbacks. Tabletop is great because you can focus the story on a group of people, tell an epic story. It doesn't get that out of hand. Hopefully, you know who the people are in your group. You know who to work with, that sort of thing. But in the LARPing situation, you have a vast community. You get to see everything from what will all these people do in a situation when this MacGuffin is dropped in the middle of them, or what will they do when nothing else is going on.
Right.
You know you don't tend to have as much downtime in a tabletop, so you don't have your group huddling around a fire, telling jokes and singing songs, or sparring up on the trail, or playing poker, or doing backroom deals and schemes.
Shenanigans.
Right. It's actually one of the problems I've had. I ran LARPing for so long. I have a hard time. I sometimes have a hard time remembering that in a tabletop you have to stimulate the players to do something because the downtime isn't there. You're not physically sitting across from the fire trying to entertain somebody. It's all in your head. So you have to provide a lot more as a storyteller in a tabletop than you do in a LARP. In a LARP, as a storyteller, you can just have a day where nothing is happening.
You have a plus or minus on that situation. Usually in the tabletop, there is a driving force or a goal or an adventure you're going through. In a LARPing situation, it's not always there, and sometimes just letting the players go and see what they do can make the greatest thing ever, because you never underestimate what your players are going to do, because sometimes they will come up with shit that you never even thought of.
Really, LARPing has a key advantage over tabletopping, at least as far as storytelling goes, which goes the same way for story interaction. LARPing is an interactive, collaborative storytelling setting, and the more people you have, the more story you're going to get, and the more fun it's going to be for everybody involved. And there's a few things you can do to help make the game better for yourself and better for everyone around you.
And what's nice about the Boffer LARPs, where there is so much immersion made into the game, is that most people will help you. So when you're first starting and you're going out and your garb is awful and you have no clue what you're doing, and people are walking around saying weird things or putting their hands on their heads, or suddenly a man walks up to you and says, "I'm a troll," and you're like, "No, you're not. You've got weird tape on and some wonderful clothing. I don't understand what you're doing," and now you're dead. Oh no. People will help you. They'll explain things, they'll take you by the hand and lead you through. Most of the time, they'll even help you find garb in different places, or give you some old stuff of theirs, or let you use something so that you don't look, ridiculous, which is strange because you look ridiculous. You really do. It doesn't matter.
One thing to be sure is if you do borrow garb from somebody, you get it back to them. One of the things that really irritates people and will burn people out faster than anything else is if they loan out a lot of things to somebody and they never get them back. Be a decent person. If this person's helping you, help them help other people in the future, and pay it forward. If you've been in the game for 15 years and you've got a little extra garb and somebody comes out and they don't have any, loan it to them and hopefully they'll give it back to you.
You know what I did the other day? I made a skirt without a pattern, just cut out what I remembered it was supposed to be and put it together in under an hour and spent a half hour talking on the phone.
Nice. I got a new shirt recently, which is impressive for me because I've had the same garb for like 7 years now, I think.
It's a nice shirt, though.
It is a nice shirt.
It's a very nice shirt, and there are options. There are places you can go to rather than make your own garb. You can go to places like the renstore.com or Museum Replicas.
Also, eBay works pretty good.
eBay works really good. Etsy.
Wonderful.
A few other ones like that. Amazon, you can get some stuff on Amazon. Just make sure that when you buy stuff, you don't buy costuming. Costuming does not survive LARPing very well. A good place to go is Renaissance festivals, and when you go, you have to make sure the stitching is good and the quality of the material is good. I can't tell you how many shirts I went through that I bought at Ren Fair. Like I said, I started out at Ren Fairs, and those were great when I started LARPing. I had a lot of good stuff, and it all lasted about 2 seasons out at Knar, and then it was all gone. It was just, it gets caught on things, it gets torn, especially if you're young and you fight a lot, which I was when I started. Your garb will get destroyed, so don't ever take anything to a LARP you're not ready to have ruined. Because the chances are it can be ruined. That includes your relationships.
The rule is don't take anything you love to a LARP.
Yeah, don't take anything you love to a LARP. So
another good place if you can't find any of these, if you have some aversion to Renaissance festivals, and if you do, then why the hell are you LARPing?
Right.
Or if you can't find these online things, or you get nervous about buying things off online, hit up thrift stores. And if you look around, you can tend to find some things, like your grandma's clothes or something like that, that if you piece them together right, look right.
It's a little bit easier for women to do that because you can get a lot of stuff from the 60s, which really fits in well out at Knar.
Oh, yes.
As far as you can sometimes find Minnetonka moccasins, even for men at those places.
Hell, one of my first shirts was a blouse.
Yeah,
it was a linen blouse.
That's back when a lady's blouse would have fit you.
Yeah.
I'm not sure a lady's blouse would fit my leg right now.
Yep.
See, I'm a girl, and being a girl at Knar, garb is extremely important. It's like this. It's a huge deal, especially depending on like what your character is doing at Knar. So. I have lots of garb. Right now I can't really wear any of it because I'm supposed to be at a different station, but I have lots of garb. All of it's more piratey kind of thing, but I have tons of garb all over the place.
Yeah, I at one time had a lot. I had, I think, 11 shirts, six or 7 pairs of pants, 3 pairs of boots. But over the course of my LARPing career, throughout various LARPs, it's been destroyed, and some of it I've replaced. I think I'm on my 9th incarnation of that green shirt.
And that's already like ripping.
Well, that shirt, that green shirt that I wear now is actually, it had to be 8 years ago that I got that shirt, and I've worn it almost every event. So you're thinking 300 days in the last 8 years. It's starting to tear now.
Yeah, that's actually pretty good.
It's not bad. But I don't fight the way I used to either. I used to be in combat all the time. I used to go on modules. Well, I didn't go on the modules. I NPC'd on the modules because I was running the game. But I don't do the kinds of things I used to do when I started the game. That's something I certainly want to talk about in another episode. But we're actually running out of time now. So, any last thoughts?
No.
That's a very
Come back to
concise
me.
thought. Okay.
I don't think there's a real flow to this show for a final thought process because we bounced all over the place with this.
Right. Well, it's something we're going to hopefully nail down in the future. Obviously, the show has been all over the place because it's a test run show.
Right.
So
LARP is awesome, and you should all do it. Join us.
I got
Drink the Kool-Aid.
I got
Ooh,
the
don't
first.
say that. That offends people.
It does offend people. Oh man, that's going to be all over Facebook later today.
You're just a jerk.
I'm horrible.
But
Bad boy, I break the rules.
so anyway, that's pretty much what we've got for a show today.
I've got a final thought.
Oh, okay.
Dave is not a bad boy. He doesn't break any rules. None.
So with that, so long and thanks for all the fish.